I'm not a turf person, so I specialize in legumes, not grasses. So it's, I'm learning as much from this research as anybody else. However, someone who really knows what they're doing is Randy Bowe. He's the regional director for Texas Native Seeds, and if you haven't heard of Texas Native Seeds, you're about to find out, because he's going to be the focus of the talk this morning. You after you introduce Texas Native Seeds, and I'll give a quick summary of what we're doing here with these crops. So just real quick, just a quick idea of what you do. Are you all in the seed business, in the turf production business? Well, seed business first, anybody? Okay. How about turf production, turf grass production? And then landscaping? Okay. What? Obviously, I'm missing some of the
golf course.
The golf course. And that to me is turf management,
okay.
Right? I mean, you probably do a lot more than turf management. In my way, I'm a plant person. And other things that you all do, just to give us an idea of what you're interested in?
Irrigation.
Sorry? Irrigation.
I'm a manufacturer.
Okay. Okay. Great.
Turf grass research.
Okay. Good. So you know what you're talking about. Yes. Anybody else? Anything other than what I've mentioned here? Okay. Just to get an idea of what you do. Okay, Randy.
Just a real quick, my name's Randy Bowe. I'm the Assistant Director for the Central Texas Native Seeds Project. And our project is statewide now, and essentially what we do is go out and collect and evaluate native seed sources that we collect, and looking to take those native ones and make releases through Texas A&M that ultimately will go to commercial seed producers that produce seed to make that available to the public. And a lot of our stuff goes to restoration projects, from roadsides to oil right-of-ways and different areas of that. And so there are two of mine species that are in here. And really quick, just to talk a little bit about what's in here. These are different accessions of population that we go out and collect, and then we bring those together and evaluate those. And so I'll talk a little bit later about the different plants that we have here, and they're different because they come from different regions in Central Texas. So we're going to talk a little bit about the diversity in that. And so ultimately what my project is we're taking native ecotypical seed, developing that and getting that to the market to be used. I work through through the Clayburg Wildlife Institute, so a lot of our stuff, my project goes from the restoration aspect, but as we've done this and as my project corresponds with Dr. Muir's project at Stephenville AgriLife, we have a big collection. The little blue stem, when we went to evaluate this one to move towards a new release, I have over 60 different plant populations that we're evaluating, looking at different things. As far as what we select for restoration is looking at location, soil type, rainfall distribution on what we want to pick. But in that, it's opened up really an eye to me of the diversity in that. When I look at little blue stem, I think, okay, that's a little blue stem. When I see 60 different plant populations brought into one, then you start looking at different colorations, different sizes, different looks, and so it has a real unique opportunity to translate into the landscaping on colors, size, and what you want it to look like. And so those are some other potential opportunities, as well as the research Dr. Muir is doing with it, looking at irrigation efficiency in different areas. And he has different plots. You had these here, Stephenville. Where else do you have these plots?
College Station is a slightly different experiment, but basically looking at water efficiency.
Yep. So that's a quick overview of what my project does, and so I'm interested to hear from the landscaping side of it on what y'all are looking for, and if there's some way we can go out and select and find something particular for a need that needs to be met in the industry. So I'll turn it back over to Dr. Muir to talk about what was done here.
I think what one of the points that Randy really needs to emphasize is that, like with the little blue stem is our favorite. We included Cytots grama in this plot as well as the purple fountain grass as a ornamental, an exotic for comparison. But if you look at his plots in Stephenville, if you ever get a chance, come by Stephenville, give us a call, and we'll show you his plots. They are amazing. You walk through his plots and you can see every shape of, in terms of, if you want an upright, tall, if you want a short bunch one, the color, if you want to match a particular blue on a house in terms of landscaping, he's got it. Particular type of green, he's got it. Even a purple or a brown, because as you know, or maybe you don't know, little blue stem changes color over the year. That's why we're so excited about it as an ornamental, is that what you see now is going to be here still in the spring. None of the other ornamentals that I know, exotics that we use here in town, are capable of doing that, but they will be here. There'll be a very different color by that time. There'll be like a rust color.
Yeah, they go kind of golden brown and even that, there's differences. And so I've often looked, and I've not got into the landscaping part, but you can basically use it as a paintbrush to figure if I want this population that's got this color, you could put them side by side to make any kind of patchwork creation that you'd want. But the differencism is really, really interesting. And so that's something that can be selected for. And really my project, we're going through and selecting and moving forward and seed increasing just the particular ones for the purposes that we want. But it also has another purpose that could be utilized for the landscaping. And so that's what we're really kind of looking at through Dr. Muir's project.
But one of the concerns we had, does everybody know what the state grass is? State of Texas?
Cytots grama.
Yep. And you recognize it, right? It's right there. That's why we included Cytots grama. Cytots grama doesn't really belong here. I'll let Randy talk about where it belongs. And so here, this trial hasn't done it justice. This soil, as you know better than I do, is very rich. It's very holds a lot of water, and so big blue stem, little blue stem, those type of bunch grasses are a lot more likely to excel here than Cytots grama, which is more west of here, drier.
From here and west, and then south, and the more sandier soils, it does better than clay. It will adapt to those. Whereas you look at little blue stem, it's native from almost Canada all the way through Central America. So it's got such a diversity of range of soil types, rainfall, but in those they are ecotypically different. And so to pick one that's designed or grew up in this area or is adapted to this area, to pick one of those that's regionally specific is going to have you further along far as how it behaves with the weather, rainfall, temperature, and then a host of other things going down. And there's not, and it's really interesting to see actual true research being done on those as we select them out and start looking for those attributes.
So that's the reason why we included Cytots grama, is because it's a Texas grass, and I think a lot of homeowners would be interested in including that in their, especially in xeriscaping and so forth. It's a bunch grass. Obviously, it doesn't spread vegetatively, so it spreads by seed only. So it's relatively easy to control. Both of those, the little blue stem and the Cytots grama, bunch grass. if you don't know that term, look it up and learn about it, because terms of landscaping very, very, very differently from St. Augustine or Bermuda grass or whatever that spreads vegetatively. And so you don't have to control it. You don't have to worry about it spreading, invading other areas. And so the question we had, and this research was funded by the Texas Water Research Institute. And the question we had that we tried to answer here in Stephenville, where it's a lot drier and the soils are a lot sandier, and in College Station, where it's a loamy soil and a lot warmer and so forth to the south, was how water use efficient they were compared to the exotics. And with the exotics, we had purple fountain grass. We originally had some pheasant tail, but it didn't survive, so we just have the purple fountain grass here. And unfortunately, for you all, it was a fortunate thing, and for ranchers and farmers, we had a really good year in terms of rainfall. And so water use, irrigation was not, didn't show up, because in theory, that was never irrigated. And this was irrigated once every 4 days, once every 14 days, and then once a month, once every 2 weeks, and once a week. So in theory, the one on the far end was watered the most, but we just came through here and took data about 2 weeks ago. We really couldn't see a difference, just because it's been such a good year, and you all can vouch for that. It's been an exceptional year in terms of rainfall. A little bit of a dip during the middle of the summer, but that was about it. So here in this soil, we're not going to see a difference in terms of irrigation this year. But in Stephenville we did, because we're a lot drier out there and the soils dry out much more quickly out there. And we're going to keep the trial in Stephenville for another year, another season. Hopefully it won't be, I hate to say this, don't tell my neighbors out there, but I'm hoping we have a bad rainfall year next year. They're not going to be happy with me if I wish that on them, but so we'll look at that there. For those of you who might be interested in little blue stem, they are available commercially already from nurseries, but they're not ecotypic to our region. As Randy said, they could be from South Texas, they could be from Canada. And when you buy a little blue stem to put in a garden or a yard, you really need to be careful about where it came from originally, because the little blue stem from this soil in this region, this rainfall, is going to be very different from what you get up in Canada or what you get in South Texas. And so that's what Randy's group at Texas Native Seeds are doing. They're coming up with different ecotypes for every region, including your county here. And so they're going to be very interested in partnering with seed companies and eventually nurseries, and then the irrigation folks and so forth in the future to look at that. How many ecotypes do you have released in Little Blue Stem right now, and cytosground?
Right now, through our project, we have a South Texas release, and I can go a little bit back further on how we do those. But essentially, the South Texas one is a blend of 2 different ecotypes, so it'll have diversity in it. It's not just one particular plant, and that was based on actually restoration. And so when you look at, there's at least 5 different commercial varieties of little blue stem. And again, those are from all over. One up in Kansas, Oklahoma, pretty much. And they are different. They look different. But what I see as a unique opportunity is to start from ground zero and say, okay, what do you want? Coloration, size, and we have that seed source to produce that, to get that to a particular market, is what I kind of envision and am excited about. And so I do have a Central Texas release in the works. but that's probably going to be another 2 or 3 years before it gets to commercial seed project process. Right now, I only have 3 different species from Central Texas that we have commercial releases for. We've got several. If you look at the poster, little blue stem, silver blue stem, a meadow drop seed is another one that's up and coming. And all of these have potential to be used in the landscape. And so I'm a little biased as far as looking at, what is native in Texas. If I'm driving through a region, what plant should be there. And to me, it kind of makes what Texas is Texas. When you look at the bunch grasses that are on the side of the roads, how they correspond to your wildflowers. And so that can all be translated over into a landscaping system, and they work very well together. And I realize landscaping's landscaping, but when I go and see a plant that's from somewhere else brought in, I thought, well, we actually have beautiful plants that are actually native to the area that would really fit in the area in so many different ways, as far as climate, rainfall, and all that. But also, it makes Texas Texas, and this is kind of preserving a part of history of our landscape. Just as our our restorations we make, we're restoring that back to kind of how it was begin with. And I think that has a lot of different aspects that can be beneficial, not only from water use, but also when you get into what animals, birds, insects are utilizing these different pockets of plants. And as you plant a landscape, you're going to determine what insects, what birds come, and a whole bunch of different things that's beyond my realm of understanding or expertise, but I know they're all interconnected. And so you have a chance to really go back and start and have these little micro pockets of native flora that can be beneficial.
And to his point, to Randy's point about habitat, like the little blue stem stays attractive, because again, ornamental is not our thing. We're primarily involved in rangeland and pasture production and so forth, wildlife. But more and more people are interested in pollinators and bird life and so forth. Because little blue stem will stay attractive basically year-round, it's a very good nesting habitat. For example, some birds can only nest in the clumps of, in the bunch grass clumps like that. And so if you have 20 or 30 of those around a house year-round, you're going to have those birds nesting in those neighborhoods, whereas you would not have them otherwise. They will go elsewhere. They'll have to go elsewhere. Assuming you don't let Fido the cat out too much to prowl through the...
around there.
Yeah.
But, and any questions for us? I can give you plot plans if you're interested in looking
They're
at that.
labeled also, right?
Yes, but
they're
they're accessions, which means a lot to Randy, but not much to us. But any questions for us?
I do have one.
Yes.
And Randy might answer this, is what's the best way to germinate the blue stems? What's the process?
As far as in a greenhouse setting,
Anywhere, yeah, I have
Anywhere?
greenhouse. Just
the process we go, as far as evaluation, the process these were in, we germinate those in a greenhouse. And so the best thing you start with is actually good seed. And so when you're buying seed, make sure it's certified so you know what the germination percentage is. And so little blue stem historically is pretty low. It's probably going to be 9% or below, probably 4%. And so if you know that going in, then you know how to pack your trays, how many seeds you need to get in that one spot as far as planting in your different pots or trays to make sure you get that germination of that one plant to go. And so that's how we do it.
You don't scarify it?
that's what I was wondering,
No.
like when the collection of it,
No.
refrigerated, anything like that.
What time of the year do you collect the seed?
Collecting seed or
Yeah,
germinating
collecting it and then taking it, if I was going to do it on my own.
Okay. So if you're going to go out and for say wild harvest, in other words, so if you took this plant right here, side oats and pulled it, then you have a seed. And so these seeds are going to germinate in the spring when the soil temperatures generally get, depending on what soil you have, up in temperature. And so
You're right. So they're going to sit through the fall like natural, through the
fall,
weather,
yeah.
through the winter, and then germinate.
Germinate in the spring. They will germinate in the fall in a small window, as your soil temperature's right, moisture's right. And so, but as far as the landscaping, if you're doing that in the greenhouse, then you have a setting where basically you put it in there, make sure it's covered just a little bit with soil, and water it, and it will grow. But the main thing is know your germination, know what seed you have, so you know what percentages to put in there, so you don't have a big empty spot with that. And so buying your seed from a certified place, and I get this a lot of if you just get a seed in a packet that says it's native, if you don't know where it's from, you don't know where it's adapted to, and what it's even going to look like. And so there is a process where you can follow through a certification program to actually know what you're buying.